Welcome to the first day in your new home. And this will die. Flames will not be put out. You've been planning this trip for your whole life. Aren't you happy with your reward for rebellion? Rejection of the light. You're taking your own blade. Lights out into eternity. Wake up in hell where there's no second chance.
All right, I'll just jump right into it. This is How Can I Forget, episode 24, and possibly the final episode. I haven't decided if I might even just throw this on YouTube, just because I feel like YouTube is like easier to access. But anyway,
that'd be great, man. That'd be great.
But yeah. So I have a guest here today. If you just want to say your name and current band, past bands, where you're from, just the basic stuff.
All right, basic stuff. Let's see if I can handle this. I went back to college for a second time a few years ago, and I had to do all these introduction things when I started a new class. So I got pretty good at telling people who I was when it was written down on paper, but now it's not written down on paper. So hopefully I don't have an identity crisis halfway through these next few sentences, and I can remember who I am. So let's see. Okay. Come on, memory. Don't fail me now. All right. My name is Sam Judd. I'm from Oneonta, New York. Not the city, probably about 3.5 hours from the city. So right now I'm in a band, a one-man chaotic hardcore band called Melting Elements that I started, a year and a half ago. I've released a 3-song EP through the record label out actually near Dallas, Texas, called the Charon Collective. In the past, I've been in a band called Machismo, which found out years down the road that the actual way to pronounce Machismo is Machismo. But we always thought it was Machismo, so our whole band was a lie. But yeah, I played drums for Monster Machismo from probably 2008 to 2009, or 2007 to 2009, and then I was in a band as a vocalist. I also wrote music for Cattle Drums. 2010 to 2013. I think that's the years. And then a year later, after that, I was in a band called Grafted as the vocalist and auxiliary percussionist. And we lasted for a couple of years, had a lot of fun, did some really cool stuff. And so I'm married. I have an awesome wife, Rebecca Judd, and I have a 7-month-old daughter, Isabel, who we call Izzy. And those are some fairly important facts about my life. Hopefully that works.
No, for sure. That was great. And congratulations on the daughter. I always find it very interesting. I feel like most of the bands that I'm into are not around anymore, and they have little to no info on them.
Yeah.
And I always find it fascinating if I do track someone down from the band to see where they are now, because it's always, it could be, life is crazy. You can get into anything, find new interests, new hobbies, and whatnot. So yeah, I'm super glad I was able to track you down.
Yeah, man. I heard Fred Durst from Limp Bizkit became a serial killer. Crazy stuff happens, and so it's good to stay connected to,
Wait. Okay, I was like, what? Right, that was the first time hearing that. That's crazy.
That would be a bummer. I was in a Limp Bizkit cover band for one Halloween, and it was absolutely wild, man. It was too dangerous to ever do a second time. Gulab Singh from Cattle Drums was in it, as well as Chris Sikoria from Cattle Drums, and I think that was all that there was from Cattle Drums. Oh no, Darren Gregory was in it too, our bass player, and dude, somebody jumped through a glass window in the middle of our set. It was a night of complete chaos, if you can imagine. you know, what happens on Halloween as it is. You mix some Fred Durst in there and some Limp Bizkit guitar riffs and a bunch of crazy college kids, and someone is almost going to die, and that's what happened.
Yeah, were you doing vocals? Like, were you Fred Durst?
No, I was doing drums.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it seemed like, so, were drums like your main thing? Maybe even like before vocals? Because I've seen vids where, I think it was Dan Drake Ensemble, where you were featured in it and you're on drums.
Yeah, man. Hey, real quick, actually, something I wanted to do, this has probably never happened before in any one of your podcasts, but, dude, could I say just like a short prayer of blessing over this interview?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah? All right. God, Lord, we come before you right now, and I thank you for this man, Chris Sloan, right? Do I have it, Sloan?
Yes.
Yes, Chris Sloan reaching out to me, God, and this is really cool. This is happening, and I thank you that you have hooked us up and somehow caused our paths to cross. And I just pray that you give me the right words to say the good stuff, say what should be heard, and to not say the things which don't need to be heard at all. And ask all these things, Lord, in your name, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. So yeah, dude, drums was the first thing. Actually, dude, do you know Monster Machismo a little bit? Were you
I was just listening to that last week again. I got into that after Cattle Drums, and I don't think it's on streaming, so it's a little bit harder. Like, you got to go on Bandcamp, I believe, or YouTube, or maybe it's on streaming. But yeah, no, I definitely.
It's not on streaming, unfortunately, dude. It was before. So I only asked you that because I played drums in Monster Machismo. So that was Dan Drake from the Dan Drake Ensemble. Prior to that, it was him and I in Monster Machismo, and rewind the tape a couple years. We were in a like screamo emo band that was actually a lot of fun. But Dan and I got really into the Fall of Troy, the band The Fall of Troy, and we got into some other cool bands. Terra Melos was a band that we started listening to, and so our music tastes started to change quite a bit, and what we saw ourselves doing, what we wanted to do, drastically changed. And so we went from being in this kind of under oath-y screamo band to starting this new project, Monster Machismo, and that's kind of when I had fallen in love with drums before. I played drums since I was 9 years old. I started out in like a anti-government pop punk band in middle school called Getaway Car, and yeah, that turned into a couple of years down the road. Eventually, this screamo band I was telling you about, and sorry, some of this is totally unnecessary information, but Dan and I came out of that, started Monster Machismo, and man, we had so much fun with that. We got to go on tour with Zona Mexicana. So if anybody who's listening to me right now does not know Zona Mexicana, do yourself a massive favor. Find their music. I'm sure it's on Bandcamp. It's probably not in streaming services either, which is like...
No, it's not. I really wish it was. I preach that band all the time. I know we just started following each other, but I'm always showing, somehow I'll just post some vinyls and I always throw it in there, or I'll just post a song, or especially that song Bored and Boring. That song is just so damn good. And I know there's actually a live video of them playing it, and you're up front, you seem everybody was into it, but you were the main person of the, just you were really appreciating it. And I always thought that was funny, but I knew you guys were all connected somehow.
Yeah, dude. So Dan Drake, myself, and this guy Joe Sasick, an incredible friend of mine, we got probably a Facebook message at some point from one of the members of Zona Mexicana, and they were like, "Hey, you should play this show in Buffalo with us." And we didn't know them at all, but we met up and played the show, and it was dude, we were like a match made in heaven, and we fell in love with each other's music heavily, and an amazing thing happened. They booked an entire tour, which was like 3 weeks long, from New York to Minnesota and back, and they invited us to come along on it. And I mean, looking back on that, we were so blessed. Like I think we helped book one show. We booked one show, and it was in Toledo, Ohio, and it was one of the worst shows I've ever played. We really we let this other band down in a big way, who also came from New York, and they played there, and just nobody was there. They're like, yo, there's no way this can be what you did for us. It's like, yeah, we failed. Anyways, but yeah, so we got like this free ride with Zona Mexicana, an awesome thing. And man, seeing them play, like we saw them play so many times over the course of that 3 weeks, and not one show was like, oh, Zona Mexicana again. No, man, every night it was an adventure. It was awesome. Karen Wish, so I don't know if you saw this in any of the videos, but dude, he would wreck his drum set. I think he'd do it at his last song. He would just, he'd like do a stage dive. Actually, he'd do a stage dive, and, you know, people would be carrying him around, and then he'd eventually make his way back to his drum set, but his drum set would be like half turned over, and he would just play the rest of the song with whatever was still standing. And occasionally, like, you know, he'd just pull pieces up as he was playing, but it was something I've never seen before. I don't think I'll ever see it again, and only Cameron could pull it off. But yeah, man, Hart Seeley, Zephyr Prudinsky, those guys are out of this world. I'm really glad you enjoy their music, man.
Oh yeah, for sure. Funny enough, so I know you checked out my band a little, but I did vocals. But funny enough, the guy, his name is Jonah Hall. He drummed in my band Party Hats, and he was the one that put me on to all your stuff and Zona Mexicana. And I like to think, especially the Zona Mexicana stuff, is because he really liked Cameron's drumming. And we would always sort of geek out. There's like a video of them playing Waking Up Dedicated in a basement, and he does the whole thing with the drum kit, and he comes back. And it looks like he's like in his boxers too, or maybe they're like just really short shorts, but it's just like if I could have been at like one show, it probably would have been that one. Like it just was just awesome.
That's so cool, man. And yeah, I think I messaged you before and told you like he's on Instagram, he's still doing stuff, and he's gotten into some type of, I want to say it's Indian like sounds and rhythms, and it's like math rock from a different culture. It's not rock at all, but it's time signatures that you could never imagine like mashing up, and he just plays it on this weird instrument I've never seen, but it's this percussive thing. And yeah, if you go to his page, like to me it's not as fun as listening to math rock, but at the same time it hurts my brain just as much, and it's really cool. But it's cool, man, to know these guys are still making music. You know, I personally didn't think I'd still be making music at 35, so I'm thankful for that. How old are you, brother?
I actually turned 29 next month, so.
Right on.
Yeah, I'm 28 right now. Yeah, so I mean that's kind of where I'm at too. I haven't done anything since Party Hats. I don't really play instruments all that much. It was just kind of wanting to do screaming and stuff like that. Also on that topic, where did the inspiration come for like that style of vocals? Because I know you guys aren't completely a screamo band. I mean, you guys kind of blended a lot of things, but what was like the true inspiration for that? Because it's like sort of spoken word kind of screaming sometimes. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of pronunciation.
Yeah, man. So I was really into Bear vs. Shark. I would say Bear vs. Shark, Me Without You, and the band Listener, as well as the band At the Drive-In. They probably played the biggest role in my vocal style. And so I don't know how familiar you are with them, but kind of like very shouty, but let me think. Yeah, very shouty. Not necessarily like super screamy bands, but lots of very intense vocals, raw, and Yeah, man. And you know, I grew up listening to so much different kinds of music. Like when I look back on where I was at music throughout those years, I mean, I'd be listening to something that was super beautiful, like This Town Needs Guns, and then I'd be listening to Dillinger Escape Plan, and that's how it went. But yeah, I think we really tried to meld. I don't know if that's a word. Can you add a D to MEL and make it a word? I just did. But yeah, we would try to take like pretty sounding music and squish it into something that was intense and aggressive. And dude, I feel like the same about your music. I know I only heard one song of yours, but yeah, man, I would have been incredible to play a show together. That would have been so cool.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we were inspired by not only Zona and y'all, but a lot of stuff, maybe even from like a couple years prior to that, like real twinkly stuff, you know.
Yeah.
But you guys also kind of started off like more like post-punk in a way, at least like the demos and stuff. And funny enough, when we were like really going through y'all's discography, like me and the drummer in my band anyway back then, he pointed out, he was like, man, like, you know, the drumming's good on the demo, but the drummer just got cracked on, you know, the release, like the album sorta is the best we're doing.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't play drums, so I wouldn't really notice that, but was there anything behind that, or no? Like, was it,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
oh, we're getting more mathematical, or maybe different style drummer? I don't know.
So we had like a little switch up of members, and originally for the Boy Kisser Sessions EP, we had Darren Gregory, who wrote all the music. I think Gulab Singh, who is a guitar player and one of my absolute best friends, I think he wrote some lead riffs and whatnot, but Darren Gregory, who was our bass player, he wrote all the music to that EP. And we had Pat Moore, who played guitar as well, and we had Jared Needham was the drummer. So at some point, Pat Moore and Jared Needham were no longer in the band, and Matt Payton came on and began drumming for us. And that's kind of like, and then our sound, like you said, started going a little bit more in the mathematical realm, and I started writing music for the band, and Gulab started writing music for the band. So I would say I probably wrote like half of the songs, close to half of the songs, like on guitar for Sorta Is the Best We're Doing. Darren wrote songs and Gulab wrote songs, and I played drums in one of the songs on that CD. I think it's The Beautiful Life Ahead. I play drums on, but
oh yeah. I've seen the video of you playing it. I think acoustic.
Oh yeah. Wow, that video is so old. Oh my gosh. But yeah, well, it's acoustic, but there isn't that song is on. We worked on that song and made it bigger than it was and put it on the full length album. But yeah, man. So our sound sort of evolved a little bit. You know, it's cool, man. I've met a lot of people who liked our new stuff, but they absolutely loved like the Boy Kisser Session EP. And I haven't been able to talk to Darren and tell him that, but I want to let him know, dude. Just so you know, like that EP was like people favored that, and he really created something awesome. And so, real quick, man, I did not sing like for anything. Monster Machismo broke up because Dan Drake moved to Purchase to go to SUNY Purchase off to college, and I also was having like severe issues with my hands. I had carpal tunnel. The doctor at that point told me, at like 18 years old, told me, hey, you have the worst carpal tunnel I've ever seen. And so drumming, there wasn't a big future for me in drumming, and Dan left, couldn't really write music with us being 3.5 hours apart. And so that ended, and then I get asked by these dudes like, hey, would you like to sing in our band? It's like, why? Dude, it was a God thing. It was like looking back on that, my friend Gulab is the one who proposed that idea, but I didn't sing in any band, so there's no reason why they should have ever been like, hey, I think this guy will pull it off. And I know Jesus had a hand in that, man, and I'm so glad because singing changed my life forever in becoming a lyricist. And you know, I loved playing drums, but you don't have to do any deep heart searching to figure out, you know, how to orchestrate drums to a song. But in order to write lyrics, for me, when I first started writing lyrics, some of the lyrics were just like, hey, let's make a bunch of syllables that sound cool and then like force words into it. But as the years progressed and I started kind of caring more about life and who I was, who God is, the Bible, Jesus, and just different things, like it's like I have to write about what's real, and I have to write about my struggles, I have to write about what I'm facing. And I actually went back and looked through a lot of my lyrics today, and there's just like an overwhelming theme in almost every song, and it's this kind of idea that I need to die. And like a lot of my lyrics sound incredibly suicidal, but they weren't about a literal physical death. It was like, dude, this man that is living inside of me that lives, you know, lives only for himself. This man who lives for just temporary pleasures. This man whose life is a train wreck, and everything he does just adds to the train wreck. And this man needs to die. And so, without even really, I never knew the scripture, you must be born again. I'm sure I've heard it before, but Jesus said, unless a man is born again, he cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. And but man, without even really knowing much about the idea of being born again, I knew that's what had to happen. I knew like who I was had to die, and a new person had to emerge. And yeah, man, it's that cost me everything though, and it was the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. And when I say it cost me everything, I mean I left my girlfriend, I left my band, I gave up drinking, the drugs I was doing, I left my job. It was I walked into a whole new world, man. And Jesus gave me like I know I texted you this, man, but freedom and hope and joy in every good thing that I never knew. You know, only kind of most of the time the happiness that I knew involved alcohol being involved or drugs being involved, and to find a joy and happiness that exists apart from that, I did not need these things to help artificially create this. Very cool, man. But anyways, I know I kind of got really sidetracked but so hey, let me bring it back to you, man. Help me find out where I'm supposed to go next.
No, it's fine. Yeah, I mean, I get that. I feel like though that type of lyrics, because I've done the same thing too, where it was like, I feel like the only thing I could write about was depressing, but, you know, a lot of people, you know, actually do like that. So yeah, it has just become a common theme in bands that you were inspired by and bands that like At the Drive-In is definitely like that. You know what I mean? Like a lot of post-hardcore, emo, math rock, especially like Midwest emo is very like self-loathing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But as far as like drinking, because I recently went sober as well, so I get how it is. Like I used to play shows, and by the end of the night, you know, I just couldn't even talk right, you know. But when you were doing shows, like, because now, I don't know if you know, but now straight edge is a big thing again.
No way.
Yeah, and it's funny because you mentioned being in a band like Under Oath and then kind of going the math rock route. Well, everyone kind of did the opposite in this new kind of like resurgence of, I guess, like kind of like MySpace music and stuff, because early 2020s, I'd say like 2021, that's kind of when we started. And there were like a few Screamo or Scrams bands that we could like go visit if we played California or the East Coast. But now it's like there are just so many. I mean, you can't even keep up with it. It's just Twinkles, Screamo. But then over the last, I'd say, year and a half, it's become metalcore again. Like metalcore, like people are even doing like Youth Crew and style bands, like straight edge, you know, hardcore basically. And it's really like wholesome because a lot of these kids that are getting into it, they're like 18, 19, and they're like, you know, they're Xing up their hands and, you know, saying no to drugs. So it's a good thing.
Wow,
But
man.
but that was, even when I started when we started our band a few years ago, like that wasn't, like I obviously knew what straight edge was, but it wasn't kind of like thrown in your face by what was going on in the scene.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely not. I mean, well, dude, I remember this band FSU, or not a band, sorry, a movement. It was a movement called FSU. Does this strike a bell? And they were straight edge dudes, and they would go to shows and like kill people if they found them like drinking in the bathrooms or something. And it was terrifying. And for some reason, I found it so fascinating. Not like I was like, wow, this is great. These guys were like, they took straight edge, but for some reason they went really militant with it, and were just ruining people's lives. And like, it was basically like if, actually no, that would have been a terrible description. Okay. Anyways, man, there's a documentary about FSU. If you ever want to check it out, it's pretty cool. But not cool at all at the same time. But yeah, no, okay, straight edge, dude, it's great. Let me ask you a question. How has like being sober, how is it treating you?
I mean, a lot better, you know.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, like, I've battled with going sober, you know, because I'll relapse and I'll just be like, well, I'm just gonna have a couple, but then it, like, you know, I feel like I end up acting a way I don't want to, whether I'm with friends or I'm by myself. I'm just, or, you know, like I post something that I kind of regret. I'm like, oh, that was kind of silly. I feel like I was looking for attention, or I was drunk and I didn't care. So,
right.
But yeah, but it's, you know, you feel better. You wake up feeling healthy. You know, I didn't like going to shows on a weeknight, and then, you know, I work at like 5 a.m. and back before I went sober, it was more like 7 a.m., but either way, it's still early, and I'd be there, and I'd be with my clipboard, and I'd just be, like, counting stuff, and I'd just be like, I hope this goes away soon. And I feel good that I don't wake up like that, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a lot better. I mean, there's really no benefit to it. Like, yeah, it can be fun, but it's just not worth it, you know?
Yeah, man. No, I agree. Dude, alcohol.
How long have you been sober now?
I was an alcoholic for a good amount of years, and I broke free from that in 2013. So, yeah, man. And
About 12 years?
Yeah, close to it.
That's crazy. Wow.
Yeah.
Congrats. Yeah.
Thank you, man. And dude, so I remember one time playing a show in Fredonia, New York, with these guys, Longitude. And man, if you haven't heard Longitude, like, and if you wanted to know, like, hey, well, actually, no. One of your questions was like, what bands were happening around the same time you were around? And this band Longitude, dude, they will grab your heart and give you the biggest hug it's ever had in your life. And so I love those guys. They're like, I think the first show I played out of town, or the second show I ever played out of town, was with them at a house show. But I just wanted to give them some shout outs. Dylan England, if you ever listen to this, I love you dearly. You mean so much to me. And he's in a band now called Del Paxton that's doing really cool stuff. But I say all that to say, I played a fest. It's called BJ's Fest out in Fredonia once, and man, I got so drunk that night, which wasn't anything like it didn't happen on a regular occasion, but for some reason, I don't know if it was because I not only got drunk, but I stayed up real late. I don't know. But man, it did something to me, and like something died inside of me, and I could not recover from it for like over a week. And it wasn't like a week of not feeling great. It was like a week of like feeling like I was on my deathbed. And I remember going to urgent care and go, or a walk-in clinic, and going to talk to this doctor. And I kind of told her what was going on in my life, and she she told me, she just said, you need to change your life. And dude, I don't know, man, it was like the voice of God speaking to me through her, because it did not matter what anybody had to say to me at all. I was my own boss. Nobody could tell me anything. From probably age like 13 or 14, I like told my dad, hey, I don't need your advice anymore. I got it figured out, which obviously I didn't. But I thought I knew the best at all times. I thought nobody could tell me, how to run my life. But for some reason, when this lady told me that, it was like, she is absolutely right. And because she's like, haven't I seen you in here already for the same thing? And she did. I'd been there for the same thing. And yeah, man, just alcohol did not treat me well. Just one more story. So Cattle Drums did a tour down to Florida and back, and we played a show in Gainesville, and we played with this band, Frameworks. I think we played with Frameworks this time around, and they're an awesome band. I just want to give a shout out to Frameworks and Corey Fisher. They don't exist anymore, but they were so cool, and we love those guys. But we played a show, and same thing, got really drunk, got stoned, stayed up late, and man, I missed the entire second half of the tour. I got so sick, I did not recover. I missed Miami, I missed Atlanta, Georgia, I missed just the whole trip up, it wasn't a lot of shows, but I missed Miami and all the way back up the coast to New York, and that sucked, man. Dude, could you imagine being on tour and missing half of a tour because you were a complete idiot?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've almost been there, but actually, similar story. We played Miami, we played Tampa and Miami, and we were doing a big tour. We were with this band that was a lot bigger than us called Versus Self. But yeah,
right.
I got sick after Miami, and then I remember getting to Atlanta, and I was just laying in the tour van, like I didn't even want to go in the venue, and everyone's in there like I'm sound checking and all this stuff, and like I still played the show, and it was fine, but so
wait,
not
dude,
quite as severe. But.
Are we living in parallel universes? That is so weird, because mine was the day before Miami, but while we were in Atlanta, Georgia, dude, I was so sick that I didn't leave the van. They had to play by themselves, and I stayed in the van the whole show. It sucked.
So they just went like instrumentally, or what?
Yeah, oh yeah, the rest of the tour they continued to play, but they just did it instrumentally.
Oh yeah, that's a huge bummer.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah,
and
it's funny too, because this is post-COVID, so, and it doesn't really matter how long we go. Like nobody wants to get sick in general, but people definitely don't want to get COVID, so they're just like, that doesn't matter because I already had been in the van with them. Like, if I got COVID, they're probably going to get it. But,
right.
Yeah, they're, like, all worried about that. And then I think a couple of them kind of did get a little sick, or at least, like, a cold, and they're like, damn it, Chris. Like, they're just, like, blaming it on me. And I'm like, sorry, like, it's not like I chose to catch whatever I caught. So.
Right.
But, yeah, as far as, gotta make sure. I had a buddy, the buddy that sent me your Instagram, he actually wrote some of these questions as well. But he had asked, Monster Machismo, Zona, and all these bands, like, they seem to be part of, like, the Sunny Purchase scene. Is like that correct? Like, was Sunny, like, a venue or, like, a collective? Like, what exactly was that?
So, it's SUNY Purchase, and it stands for State University of New York. And,
okay.
So SUNY Purchase, it was a college not too far from New York City, and yeah, man, some cool stuff came out of it. I think so Sirs came out of it, Zona, the Dan Drake Ensemble, and I'm not sure. There's a band called Our Daily Fix, which they like joined us for maybe 3 shows while we were on tour once, and they were a math rock band. And they came out from that area, somewhere either southern New York, or they did go to that college. But yeah, dude, I don't know how things happen the way they happen, and how like an area just explodes with a certain type of sound. It's really cool how that happens. But there were, so I think there was a member, Hart Seeley's brother. Am I right about this? I thought that Hart Seeley's brother who is from Zona, was in Sirs. Right now I'm kind of drawing a blank on some things. Dude, it's so weird, man. Like there's some things I remember okay, but my brain has flushed out so much from 10 years ago. And honestly, a lot of it's just the grace of God. And he's like, hey, you don't need to remember that. You don't need to carry that shame with you anymore. And some of the things are just like, I don't know. But yeah, dude, I wish I could answer that question well, but I don't know what was happening there at that time. Like, I know that Caramelos played that college. I think trying to remember the other band that played there. They had lots of cool bands come through there. I'm sure that those bands inspired some of the people who were there, but I think it's like a music-ish college as well. Like there's some music major stuff going on there. So hey, whoever asked you to ask me these questions, tell them I'm so sorry that I butchered this question, and that they probably could have spent their this last 10 minutes doing something better with their lives than listening to me. But you know.
Well, he'll definitely be listening to this. So.
Okay.
But I think you also he also had mentioned the similar projects or people that you remember playing with, and you kind of answered that. But if there was any other bands that played at that time that you want to shout out. Just because I know people, even me, I've got inspired by other podcasts from more that era, and bands that I like, they'll mention bands they played with or that they were inspired by, and it'll let me go check them out and show me some new music that I might not have found otherwise.
Yeah, man. Well, so there's this one guy I definitely have to give a shout out to, and his name is Bubba Crumrine. And he's from Ithaca, New York, and he started this thing called Ithaca Underground, and it was just this. I don't know. I don't know what to call it. He basically created this underground music culture in the small city of Ithaca. But he brought so many bands out there, and there's just he just did so many cool things, and I just want to give him a shout out because I love that guy. He did so much. He got Cattle Drums got to play with Caramelos because of him, so that was really cool. Cattle Drums. On another note, we got the last show we ever played. The second to last show we ever played was with the band Listener, which I brought up before. Have you ever listened to Listener?
I have not. No, I hadn't heard of it. Well, they sound familiar, but no, I haven't listened to them.
Yeah, not mathy at all, just total spoken word talk music, but very, very inspiring. I think the album Wooden Heart was what I was really into back then. But yeah, man, keep the questions coming.
Oh yeah, I was actually wondering about the face paint in the Cattle Drums videos. I don't know if you did that with other bands too, but you guys seem to rock face paint in the music videos. So you guys, that was probably just for fun. I don't know, but I was just curious if that was inspired by something significant or if it was just more we're just messing around.
So yeah, dude. We for some reason juggalos. Have you ever heard of the term juggalo?
Yeah. I used to listen to ICP as a kid, not even realizing how bad it was for me. But yeah.
I love how you put that. Yeah, dude. So I never listened to any juggalo music, but for whatever reason, we just thought it was we thought it was funny, but it was something more than that. We did this in a way not. Let me think. Was it mocking? I guess it was mocking, but at the same time, there was something on a deeper level. We just thought it was hilarious. We watched this documentary called The American Juggalo, and it showed us footage from The Gathering, which is a massive juggalo fest that happens in the Midwest, and just the stuff on there blew our minds. And we talked about somehow going there and getting on the fest and playing a show there, which we would have been murdered. They would have been wait, you're not one of us. But I know the juggalo lifestyle is supposed to be very accepting and loving, so maybe not, but at the end of the day, I think we probably would have walked out of there missing some limbs. But so we thought it was great, and we're like, dude, let's paint our faces, and there's a picture of us that actually this picture, you probably have seen it, there's not like a million pictures of us out there, but there's a few. And one of these pictures is us on the side of the highway, all dressed up as juggalos, and our van had just broke down. We got a flat tire or something on our way to our first show of a tour. And but that's like one of the main pictures that's made it on the internet. And there was a while where if you typed in cattle drums, like it came up with, it would say that we were a metal band, which I don't know how that happened, and it would have, and that would be one of the pictures that would show up. And so it's like people would have no clue who we were. They're like, oh, they're a metal juggalo band from, 2013, and would have no clue that, like, who we really were. So, yeah, man, I think it also, like, did something to our brains. Like, when we put that face paint on, like it upped the level of insanity. Like, we were already, like, pretty much functioning, like, full-time at, like, a level 10 insanity, like, where, just we were like, dude, we went on tour with Sirs, we did a short tour with Sirs, and those dudes are really cool, but, like, we were so nuts and so insane that, like, they would wake up before we woke up and try and get on the road before we even woke up to, like, avoid spending much time with us because people couldn't handle us. And I'd be terrified to look back, like, out of their point of view or just from anybody and, like, watch how we functioned on a regular basis. And, like, yeah, man, I mean, we were bound to get in trouble, and I think people were like, these guys they're trouble. If we stick around close to them, we will wind up on the FBI's most wanted list or something close to that bad. So they were smart and kept their distance from us. But yeah, man, I don't know. Face paint, good times, I think. And then, like, there was a time when we played Fest in Gainesville, and we just, like, I don't know, got bored, and we had Sharpies and we drew all over our faces. And that had nothing to do, I don't think, with the juggalo stuff. It was just like, here's a permanent marker, and you're my friend, and I love you. Can I draw on your face? And there's a good picture somewhere of Gulab Singh and I up in a tree with faces all painted. And just want to give Gulab Singh a shout-out. There's nobody in this world has a closer place in my heart than this man. I'm actually I meet up with Gulab, our guitar player. I meet up with him once a year. He's from the city, or he lives in the city now, New York City, but we meet up once a year, like halfway in the Catskill Mountains and go on a hike together. And I hope we do that every year until I'm 90. So, or 99, if I can, if I'm doing a 6.5 mile hike at 99, maybe that face paint somehow, like, injected me with some supernatural power. So I hope so. Yeah, dude. That's it.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that this is over the phone and we're not doing, like, FaceTime, because I just picked my nose, and I probably will continue to do that, just so you know, because nobody can see me. So what are you going to do about it?
Exactly. So, as far as Melting Elements, which anyone that's listening that might know your past stuff, you should definitely check it out. I think, would you say Melting Elements, like, I saw people comparing it to the Chariot. Is that, like, pretty reasonable from your point of view?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, so the Chariot was I love those guys and listened to them a lot in high school, and listened to them, like, a little bit at some point between high school and 10 years ago. But I think, so this is weird, man. I feel like Melting Elements is me picking up a guitar for the first time in 10 years. So like I said, I wrote a lot of music for cattle drums, but then I gave away my guitar shortly after I got saved, and I didn't play guitar, for the most part, didn't play guitar again for like 11 years. And then I tried to start a band with somebody who was going to our church for a little while, and he wasn't able to make it happen because he had 2 kids and he had his own business. And he's like, but you can borrow my guitar. So I borrowed his guitar and started playing. And so, this is me not playing guitar for 10 years and then picking it up and being like, let's write some stuff that's dissonant and not like music I've written before. And so since I became a Christian, I pretty much only listened to like 3 or 4 heavy Christian bands. And one is this band Wrench in the Works, which was like a Christian mathcore band, totally nuts. Their record called The Lost Art of Heaping Coal. Just when I listen to that, it makes me feel like me. It's from 2008. It's awesome. And in this band Advent, who is just like a straight like North Carolina hardcore band that just they to me they do hardcore better than anybody's ever done it before, and that's just my personal opinion. And this other band,
real quick, is that Advent like ADVENT?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I'm just taking notes because I even want to put in the description, bands mentioned and stuff like that. But I want to check out some of these bands you're mentioning. But sorry, go ahead and go on.
No, man, don't be sorry at all. So the album that I would tell you to check out is it's called Remove the Earth, and that was from the year 2008 too. 2008 as well. And dude, I just this band, they created something like that. Just for a while, I was trying to jog just to stay in shape for shows for the most part, and because I did a lot of jumping around and didn't want to be out of breath after like halfway through the first song and have to call it quits. And so I'd like run, and I listened to this band Advent pretty much every time I ran, and my friend would call them Advent runs. And I'm not going to like talk about this much, but I just did want to mention a big part of why I became a Christian was actually this band Advent, and they just I don't know, man. The singer he's a Christian, and he's so passionate about what he believes in, and he gave me. It's like I want to be like him. I want to have the faith that he has. I want to be so convinced of what I believe. I want to be so connected to what I believe that I'm willing to die for what I believe in. And man, that guy is willing to die. He's willing to die for Jesus. And like I had already been like kind of flirting with the idea of Christianity. And he just he made this something that I wanted to give my whole heart and my whole life into. And I just want to say, I want to apologize for the uhs and the ums. I should have warned everybody at the beginning that they were about to hear like close to 1,000 ums and uhs, but I think that's probably typical with a lot of people. So, and the next band is this band called Extol. And dude, I think you're into mathcore. I think you'd really love, or math rock, you'd really love their album called Synergy. And that's Extol, spelled EXTOL, the album Synergy. I don't even know what to call it. Nobody can reproduce the sound that they did. It's like progressive black metal meets math rock, and it's just nuts. It's absolutely nuts. And so those were pretty much and this band called Torn, which was the singer from Advent was in this band Torn that just put out one EP, TORN. And that was about it, man. Those are pretty much the only bands I listened to for the last 10 years of my life that were heavy. And somehow them plus years and years of listening to other heavy music that's somewhere stored away in my brain somewhere helped play a role in whatever I wrote. But yeah, man, I've always wanted to be in a hardcore band. Never thought it'd be when I'm 35 and all by myself. But it probably worked out better this way. I can't play any live shows, and live shows aren't an option anyways, just with being a father now, and that just doesn't work with me. But I can't, because I can't play all the instruments at once. And if I ever were to do like hardcore vocals for an entire set, I don't think I'd make it past the second song. And dude, I don't know. I gotta ask you, man. So for me, I would lose my voice occasionally with cattle drums. It actually happened like twice where I completely lost my voice and I had to miss a show because I couldn't even talk. your vocals are really intense too. Did that ever happen to you?
Not really. I mean, there were a couple shows where it was like, wow, maybe I probably shouldn't have done vocals because my voice was so shot. But it usually would be from the cold, like because
Really?
North Texas gets pretty cold, and there were a couple times we would play outside, and it wouldn't be like freezing, but it'd be cold enough to where like uncomfortable. And then I'd scream, like a 15, 20-minute set. And I remember one night we did that here. We just happened to have a Denton show before a Southern California show, and we were flying out to go play California for the first time.
What?
And like both those shows, I mean, my voice is just shot. Some of it sounded kind of cool because I couldn't really fully scream, so it almost sounded more like almost kind of cow drum style, where it was almost like spoken word more so.
Nice, nice.
But there were a lot of we played one house show and one venue show about an hour apart from each other, maybe 2 hours, and yeah, some of it was better than other parts, that's for sure. But I feel like I had pretty good luck with it. I also think your style would be funny enough. I know my vocals sound like really harsh, but sometimes I feel like, I don't know, if you're like fully using your voice or like really like pronunciating and stuff, I almost feel like that can tire out your vocal cords more than like just straight screaming, because then you're not, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
I never did too much like actual singing, so I wouldn't really know. I honestly, I don't even know how I ended up being in like a band that people like actually listen to, because before that I never really, like, that was the only real band I ever did, and I didn't do it till I was like 24.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
That's so cool, dude. Yo, well, the way your voice sounds, and the music you play, the music that your band plays, the instruments, like it is a real cool concoction, man. And
I'm surprised you never like crossed paths with bands like Boy Problems, or I'm trying to think what would be, or like Midwest Pen Pals or Merchant Ships. I know it's a little bit different. If you do know them, they are quite a bit different style than y'all.
Yeah.
But they're not too far off, especially like instrumentally. But it's kind of like got that Midwest math rock, open tuning, but with like screaming.
Right, dude. I actually got a hold of Gulab today because I was like, yo, what were some bands that were around when we were playing? And next thing I know, like, my phone is blowing up, and his brain is like an archive, and he was just shooting out band after band after band. And for some reason, I just couldn't really remember much. But he could remember half the bands we ever played with, and I don't remember like much about like bands we played out in the Midwest. Now I know you're talking about. Well, I know Midwest emo is a style, and obviously it came from the Midwest. We played with a band called the Texas Instruments out in Kansas. I don't know.
Oh,
if
I know that band.
Them.
Yeah, that band. I mean, I didn't get like crazy into them, but yeah, I definitely know them. They're kind of, I want to say they kind of remind me of like Silver Scooter. I don't know if you ever knew that band, but
no, dude,
very
that was
math rocky though. Yeah.
Oh, heck yeah. Our show with Texas Instruments was one of the most memorable shows we've ever played. So this is our first and only time in Kansas, and we didn't really know what to expect, but we wound up in the absolute middle of nowhere. We're talking just cornfields, and we drive down this like road in the middle of nowhere to a home, and this dude was living in the band Texas Instruments. He was living with his parents, and we played in his parents' house, and we played to probably like maybe there was like 2 people there who weren't in the band. It was like we played to nobody, which was not unusual for us. It happened like a lot of times. But what was memorable about it was there were spiders, dude. Like, I'm not talking tarantula-sized spiders, but monster spiders. And they were like, I was in the bathroom, and I was sitting on the toilet, and I like just for some reason peer over into the bathtub, and it's just filled with dead spiders. Like, while we were playing, you could see them running across the floor, and we were freaking out. I actually slept on a bunch of drum cases that night. Like which wouldn't have helped me. Spiders can crawl vertical, but in my mind, it's like if I can get like 3 inches, 6 inches off the ground, foot off the ground, like they'll stay away. So, sorry, that's my Texas Instruments story.
No, that's sweet. It's like really cool to know that you guys played with them.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's a band that's been brought up. Like I can't like lie and say I got like super into them, but I definitely have buddies that were like really, really into them.
Hey, dude, before we move on to another question, I just wanted to go back real quick, if it's cool, just because we were talking about our voices and how well they held up and whatnot. And, dude, just like, I think, so with Monster and Machismo, I told you I got really bad carpal tunnel. And, dude, like making, like shows were starting to become close to impossible. And we had a song where Dan would just play himself, and I would run and like find a sink and just run my arms under hot water and try and like loosen up some of the tension and help like get rid of some inflammation, which probably didn't even help, but it would help a little bit. I'd be able to come back and things wouldn't be quite as tight. But it was coming to a point where it's like, this is not sustainable. Like this will not be my future. I can't do this. And that was a really terrible feeling. And I would experience like similar feelings while singing for cattle drums at times because, dude, I was doing everything I could to not get sick. I was doing everything I could to like keep my voice. And I would make this like tea concoction. It was some type of tea. I'd put lemons in there. I'd put cayenne pepper in there. I don't remember all the things I put in there. I had this thing called a Vicks Vapo steamer.
Vapo rub.
Yeah, it's the Vicks Vapor Rub band, but they had a steamer where like hot water or hot steam would come out of this thing, and I'd be breathing in this steam, which I thought helped my voice after a show. It turns out it actually destroys it. Like what you need is not super hot or super cold water. You need like lukewarm water. But it seemed like everything I did was either adding to suffering. It was either like just reminding me, hey, this isn't going to work forever. Hey, this isn't going to work forever. And so I feel like there was always this struggle. And dude, as you know, you went on tour, you played a lot of shows. Like, as much as I'd love to do that for the next 20 years of my life, it kind of is not a sustainable thing. And, you know, I mean, I loved sleeping on living room floors and sleeping in basements and sleeping in, you know, hotels where you knew like you were probably going to get swallowed alive by bed bugs. Like I did love that, but I only bring all that up to say, like, with my voice and my arms and everything, that it was just one more reminder to me that, like, dude, you're barely treading water. Like, you're, you know, I don't know. I'm picturing somebody who doesn't really know how to swim, and they're trying to keep they're plunged into a bunch of water, and they're trying to keep their head above water. They're just going to be flapping, and they're, you know, they're trying to stay above water, but really it's probably making things worse. And that's kind of like what it felt like. And it just, yeah, man, basically, and I a lot of my life I bring back to spiritual things because I was trying with everything I could to make my life work without Jesus. Like, I was trying to make my life work so hard without doing things God's way, and God was so kind to kind of show me it can't. There is a God-shaped hole in your heart. Nothing can fill it besides God, and you keep trying to fill it with everything else, and you're never gonna find that that lasting contentment. You're never gonna find that lasting peace. And dude, I remember playing a show once. I don't know where we were, middle of the country somewhere. And dude, there's actually a music video, California's music video. I don't know what song it is at the moment, but you would know because there's not a lot of music videos out there. If you go searching, you'll find this one. We're in a basement and people are losing it. Like, it was like the craziest show I'd ever played. People were crowd surfing. It just was nuts. It was nuts, and people were freaking out for us. and it felt really good. But I got in the car afterwards, and everybody else stayed in the house and was partying, but I was trying to like not lose my voice, trying to not get sick, so I avoided like partying that night. And I was just out in the van alone, and a couple things hit me. One is I figured, you know what, these people would have probably like been freaking out for anybody. Like, we probably weren't the special thing that caused them to like go nuts. Like, it's just we're in a basement playing a show. We could have been like, I don't know, we could have been the worst band that ever existed, and people probably would have had just as much fun. But it also hit me like, this is the best it gets. And this is as good as it gets. Like, yeah, we could play bigger shows, we could go on longer tours, maybe bigger things could happen, but like as far as my level of like enjoyment and satisfaction, like this is as good as it gets. And that scared me, because it just kind of showed me like there's no future in this. Like, and I'm not saying I regret anything. I'm so glad that we did what we did, but and sorry, man, I know I'm talking like a lot, but I guess I'm just trying to show, man, that it was very evident to me that there was an expiration date on the life that I was living, and that it was getting close. The milk was getting ready to spoil, and it was coming to a point where I really had to say, hey, I am on a burning ship. It's going down. It's sinking. It's on fire, and I need to get out. I need to get off the ship. And the ship wasn't Cattle Drums. The ship was just my life in general. And Jesus had his hand hanging out for me, and he was saying, hey, you know I'm the only way. You know I'm the only way out of this. And eventually, man, I made that leap, and I've been in love with Jesus ever since. And so anyways, man, that's just some more of my story, but I'd love to give you more opportunity to talk or to ask me different questions.
No, it's fine. I mean, on that topic, I feel like you sort of said this in a way, but the way I was feeling towards the end of all that stuff, and it's like, I feel like I kept, like I had a friend from like my hometown. I'm actually from Phoenix, but he would tell me, man, like, are you going to get like a real job or like what? Because I would just work at a convenience store, just something that would like pay my bills so I could like leave and go on tour and still have a job, you know?
Yeah.
And I would tell him, I'd be like, well, you know, I'm going to do that later. Like, I only got, like, I can't do this when I'm mid-30s, 40s, beyond that,
right.
You know? And, like,
yeah.
But I did start to feel like the job I'm at now, I started it a little over a year ago. And I was still, right after I started, I went on, like, a 3-week-long tour, probably the longest tour we did, and the biggest one.
Nice.
And I just remember being like, man, I need to take this job serious. And, like, that's kind of when I, like, so did you ever feel like you were putting your actual life on hold? Because that's how I felt. Like, I felt like I can't really do much if I really, like, want to tour and do all this, because what job is going to take me serious? You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't know.
Dude, I never felt that way back then, because, like, I don't know, just Cattle Drums meant so much to me. It really did, and it was like the one thing that kind of tethered me to, one of the few things, if not the only thing, that kind of tethered me to, like, I won't say to reality, but it just gave me something to live for, and it was like my reason for existence. And you know, booking tours is hard, and we were on a label, but they didn't like book our tours for us. They got us some, you know, on some good festivals, but I would spend months putting together a tour. And so, like, you know, I have months of just spending so much time trying to find places, trying to connect with bands and make this happen. And obviously writing music, recording music, and then going out on tour. And like, every moment I spent writing music or being with a band or whatever, like doing something towards the band, like I felt alive, and I felt like, hey, things are going to be okay. But man, you know, we'd get back from tour, and it would be like, pretty depressing, actually severely depressing. I remember coming back from tour one year, and it was like I felt more lost than I'd ever felt in my entire life. And dude, you know, like the tour, besides times where I've screwed things up, they were amazing. It was like the best times of my life. But then I'd come home and I was stuck with the same dude in the mirror that I left. I was still faced with the same guy. I'm talking about myself here. I had the same anger problems. I had the same addictions. I had the same inability to say, I don't really know. I don't know how to put it, man. Besides, when I came home from tour, life went from its best to me stuck with me again and realizing I'm lost. And you know, I guess it came to a point where it's like cattle drums was not enough for me to keep saying no to God and keeping God out of my life. But I don't know where else I was going with that. But hey, dude, a story came to mind. This came to mind while I was talking, but I'll share it really quick. While Monster Machismo was on tour with Zona, I got arrested in Ohio, and so we stayed out. We played a show like next to a Subway. We were staying in a house like a block away from Subway. And one night we were at a party somewhere in Ohio, and I walked back from the party back to the apartment on my own, and I was passing by a Subway, and I was like, yo, I could really go for a bag of chips right now. And I was like, I wonder if the door's unlocked. Who thinks that? Who's like, I wonder if I can get in? I thought that. I was like, I wonder if somehow I can get in. I go to the back of Subway, and the last person who left forgot to lock the door. And so I got right into Subway. It's like midnight. And I go and get one of the members from Zona Mexicana. It's Hart, actually. I get Hart, and we go in there, and we just get 2 garbage bags, and like we fill them with food, chocolate, milk, meat, bread, probably cheese, whatever. And we made it out of there, and we had like probably close to 80 bags of chips. And so somehow we don't get caught. The next morning, this is just giving you a pretty good example of how stupid I was. We go to the Subway to get Wi-Fi, and there's a police officer there, and it's like, oh, we got to get out of town. So we got in the car. We left, and we eventually went to a Sonic. How did this happen? We went to a Sonic, and do you guys have Sonics out in Texas?
Yeah, we do.
Sonic fast food places. And I got a burger with the works, like with jalapenos on it, and the burger eventually came to me. I recognized there's no jalapenos on there, so I let the waitress know that, and she was like, that's all right, I'll make it right, we'll get you the right burger. And so she left that burger with us, which I gave to my friend, Chris Acoria, who is in our band. He ate that burger, and then out comes the right burger 10 minutes later or whatever, and it's the manager is the one who's got the burger. She says, I'm not going to give this to you unless you give me the other burger. And it's like, well, we can't do that because that's in my friend's belly. And she's like, well, you're not getting this. And so I like hunted this woman down as she was walking back inside, and I like grabbed this burger off her tray, and like we got in the car, drove away, said something stupid in the drive-through microphone, and we get away, and not long after we stop at a gas station, I go use the bathroom, I come outside, and our car is surrounded by cops. Like there's like multiple police cars surrounding our we had a Volkswagen bus, like a 1970s Volkswagen bus. And yeah, dude, it's me versus a police officer, and man, I am like heated. I go into this like ready to fight, and I don't even know what was happening in the conversation, but you know, the woman at Sonic called the police on us, of course, and I'm telling him that he doesn't know what he's talking about, and I'm like, man, there's people out there injecting drugs into their veins, and you're here giving me a hard time over this. And then I tell the guy, which is actually hilarious, I'm like, if you're going to arrest me, just arrest me. And he probably wasn't going to arrest me, but since I invited him to arrest me, he arrested me, and I got brought to county jail, which really sucked. But this is a story I like to tell. But man, like, this was me being like, I don't know. I just robbed the subway the day before. I just robbed the subway. Here I am telling this police officer essentially, hey, I'm like the most innocent person in the world. You got nothing on me. I'm clean. I do no wrong. And I was so, this term probably isn't used a whole lot, like in non-church worlds, non-church realm, but like self-righteous, man. I was so self-righteous, and I just thought that nobody could touch me. And I thought that, I don't know, man. I thought my level of goodness was close to as high as it can go. And it's like, in reality, I was a criminal and a thief. And I was so blind, man. And I feel like.
But did they know about the subway though? Like, did they figure that out or no?
No, nobody ever figured out the subway thing. Never.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I was like, that would have been insane if that led to them like being like, oh, what's in your Volkswagen bus? Like, what's up with all those chips? Hey, like they put it together. Like that would be insane.
Dude, that would have been wild. That would have been wild. No, and man, what's so funny about all this to me is that like I applied for a job a while back, and I got the job, but maybe some point like right before I started, they were like, hey, there was something you didn't tell us. It's like, oh no, what are you talking about? And they're like, you didn't tell us that you were arrested in Ohio. And dude, I've been arrested like multiple times. And I've been in trouble with the law a bunch of times. And none of that has remained on my record. Like all of that is gone. The only thing that remains is the Sonic incident on my record. And man, like that's so crazy. I feel like that's just God, like, I think it's in one way God's sense of humor, and in another way, like God's total grace. And it's like, hey, you could have like terrible stuff on here that you would have to explain to, the people who are hiring you, and you might not get a job. But instead, you get to tell them this hilarious story, and they get to say, okay, you were an idiot. But that's probably not who you are now, so we'll hire you. But yeah, man, I'm glad I came to a place in my life where it's like, nope, I need to accept responsibility for who I am, and accept like, nope, you're a thief, you're a liar, and I could go down the list, man, because I'm many things. But now I'm just forgiven. So, all right, man, I've gone on another rabbit trail. Help me get back on the rails.
No, it's fine. I just got a couple more. We're at like a little over an hour now, but that's fine. Wait, you never knew the band Me and Him Call It Us? They were like a mathcore, but I interviewed the drummer about a year ago, and it's funny because we ended up doing the same thing where like most of my interviews before then were more like, 30 minutes to 45 minutes, like never really even an hour. And then him and I, like, we kind of got to this point, and I was like, well, if it's a good interview, I'm just going to let it go. Like I'm not going to, it would just be inorganic to be like, okay, we got to wrap this up. Like that would just, But, I think I know the answer to this, but could we ever see a reunion of any of your past recording projects? Now, that actually wasn't my question, but I think he means like, would you ever revisit making stuff that maybe you just recorded? But, I mean, we could turn that, I mean, I'm sure you're probably not going to revisit like cattle drums or anything like that, but is there anything you would possibly revisit?
So just one thing that comes to mind real quick, and I'll definitely answer that question is, so I had a dream actually that cattle drums got back together, and that is basically what led to Melting Elements coming into existence. I had a dream that cattle drums got together, and then that morning I went to church, and this message got preached about this painting called Checkmate. And it's like where this painting is a painting of this dude playing the devil in chess, and the guy loses. But a famous chess player found out years later, or not a famous, but a professional chess player found out, wait a minute, this guy didn't lose. The king has one more move. And that message combined with my dream about cattle drums like spoke to me like, hey dude, you got one more chance. And that's what I felt like. I was saying you got one more chance to do music. and that's how Melting Elements came. But dude, yeah, as much as I love those dudes, I definitely nothing will happen again with us all. Grafted I Am. I know you mentioned them, but whether it was you or your friend who came up with that question, I don't know, but I still talk to the guys from Grafted I Am all the time, and dude, it's like, we're at a point in our lives where all of us have kids, we all have full-time jobs, and it's not possible. I'd love to do music still. I really would, man. But yeah, so that's a no.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. You get to a point, it's kind of, but it's cool that you do Melting Elements. I mean, that's, I don't know. And at least it's got a message to it that, I guess you feel genuine about, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And usually the last question, I usually ask this with everybody, but say, okay, like, just pretend that you were playing a show again. It doesn't matter what project, even if you were doing it solo, but what would be like one band that you could share the stage with? It could be any band.
So sorry, I interrupted you.
No, I mean, I was just going to say, like, it could even be like Nirvana, like, even if you could bring someone back from the dead and play with the band, like, any band at all.
Man, I gotta say, it would actually be this band that is alive and well right now. They're called No Treaty. They're from one of the Carolinas, and they just came on the scene last year, I think, and put out like a 5-song EP. Once again, that's No Treaty, and I love these guys. I do the plowing for our church, and we got a lot of snow this last year, so I was out in the plow truck like often, and almost every time I plowed this winter, I put on their EP, and it was like the perfect length for me to do the parking lot and rock out to their tunes. And I don't really know what to call their music. I think they've called it before like melodic metalcore, and you'll just have to, if you want to give it a shot, man. They have a music video called Trumpet. Trumpet, Sound the Trumpet. It's called Sound the Trumpet, and it's like, it's blown up. The song is absolutely blown up, but I really love these guys, and I love what they're doing. I love their heart, and I hope to see them someday. And yeah, man, so check it out, everybody.
Yeah, I'm hyped. I got a lot of new music to check out. I do want to recommend you one band on the note of like melodic metalcore or even Christian metalcore, but there's this new band. They're actually from Denton area. We played a lot of shows with them, but they're still doing it, touring a lot. They're recording in like New Jersey right now, but they're called Cinema.
What is it? Cinema?
Cinema, yeah, just like a movie, but with an S instead of a C. So SINEMA. I think you'd really like them. They got breakdowns and stuff like that. But there's definitely Christian metalcore involved, but they also fuse a lot of stuff. They fuse melodic screamo metalcore. But I just wanted to mention them real quick. I think you would probably dig them, and they're newer too, but they'll probably make you feel a bit nostalgic because they definitely have sort of like Under Oath vibes sometimes, or like Alexis on Fire, stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh, right on, man. I wrote down their name. I'll check them out. I'd like to give one more shout out to this band. There's another. So there is another one-man chaotic hardcore band out there, and the guy's name is Mitchell Layton. I think it's his last name, but the band's called Pipe Bomb, and it's insane. He was out before I was out, and yeah, man, I think you'll enjoy it. Definitely, you brought up the Chariot earlier. Definitely could share a stage with the Chariot for sure. Good, super good stuff.
For sure. Well, that pretty much, that pretty much does it for questions. And thanks again, man. I really appreciate you talking. I know, life is way different now, so it's probably even the person that pointed me in your direction was like, yeah, I don't know if he would be open to talking about that, and I was like, okay, I hope it doesn't come off as rude, but he seems like a very nice dude. I didn't think you would, even if you didn't want to do it, I figured you'd be cool with it. But seriously, like, thank you so much for coming on and talking about this stuff. I feel like there's going to be quite a few people that are like really happy to listen to this, considering, I don't know, there's just not a lot of like info on you guys out there, you know?
Yeah, man, we were on a label, but we released the full length got released through like 3 different, like, I don't even know, I guess you could call them labels, but never on like the bigger label we were on before that would have like put this out there more. So I don't even know, you know, there was like no push, you know, like the label I'm on right now, Eric Shirey and the Caron Collective, like he put out a media release for my EP and sent it out to like 200 different places that promote music. And like, so we had none of that when that record came out. So yeah, like you said, there's not a whole lot on us, but yeah, man, dude, I'm really thankful that you asked me, brother. And, I really appreciate it. I'm glad. I know I talked a lot and probably about 3 times more, like you said, than the average person, but, you were very patient with me, man. And, for real, it means a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, thanks so much again. And, yeah, I'm down to chat anytime, man. But, yeah, I'll go.